Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'll be showing you how to use the 3D Paint tool in Maya. Let's get right into it. So I have this simple character that I made in Maya, and before I use the 3D Paint tool, the first thing we need to do is go to File and Save Scene As, and this is super important. In the 3D Paint texture option, make sure to always copy texture maps, otherwise your textures that you paint won't be saved and that might cause some issues, and then you just save your project. So to get the 3D Paint tool option, what you'll need to do is go to here and then click on the rendering tab, and then the texturing menu will show up. Click on it, and then in the 3D Paint tool, click the option right here. Okay, so here we can set the brush size, and we can set the color and the flood. So I just set it to this orange color. And now if I try to paint on my character, first thing I need to do is go to object mode and select my character, the part I want to paint. And now if I go to texturing 3D Paint tool and click the box right here, and if I try to paint on it, I can't, I will get a warning. So the first thing we need to do is create the texture. So let's assign the texture first. Make sure you're in the attributes, you selected the base color. Okay, and then let's assign texture. And you can set the size here. 1024 is a good size. You can, if your character has a lot of details, you can do more, but that will require more computing power. So I'm just gonna set it to 1024. And in the image format, I like to select either JPEG or PNG, because then you can edit them with any software you would like. And you just click assign textures. Okay, now I can paint. So the first issue we have is we need to fix the UVs, because if I paint here, it will come up here. So we need to fix the UVs first. Okay, so let's fix the UVs. Let's close this. Press Q to exit paint mode, go to object mode, select your character, and then in the workspace, let's go to UV editing. Let's click the front view. So the first thing we'll need to do is go to create, and we're gonna hit camera based, but make sure you're on the front view first and you're looking at your character from the front view. And then let's hit camera based, and this will UV map our character in the front view. And then what you're gonna do is go to cut and sew, and let's click auto seams. Okay, and then you're gonna right click on the UVs here, go to UV shell, and you're gonna select all of your UVs. Okay, and then in the unfold, you're gonna click unfold, and then finally go to arrange a layout, and you can layout. Now our character is nicely UV wrapped. Now let's go back to the general workspace, and let's see if this worked. So let's go to rendering, and then let's go to texture and 3D Paint tool. And now if I try to paint, my painting won't reflect on the other side. So I'll walk you through the settings. So we have the radius, we can make the brush bigger or smaller. We can change the color here. I'm gonna change it to maybe a black color. And instead of changing the radius from here, what you can do is hold B and then drag your mouse to the left or to the right to make it smaller. And this will set the brush size. And now I have this brush size. I can even make it smaller and paint here. Besides color, we have flood, which is basically like a paint bucket tool. So if I click flood paint, it will paint bucket my whole character. I can set maybe like a blue color and then hit flood paint, and it will flood paint my whole character. And then you can even go back and start drawing on my character. So of course we have opacity, which I'm sure you know what that means. I can set the opacity very low to do just minor shading. I can even set it lower, and I can paint some shadows. Same thing with the opacity. I can set it to 0.1 and slowly fade the opacity, the flood. Okay, so I'm gonna set it to maybe to an orange color and flood paint, set the opacity 1, and now we can see our character in this flooded color. So another thing I want to show you is, let me just choose a color here. So next I have smear, which basically smears your strokes that you made. We also have blur, which will blur out your strokes, and you can set the blur intensity in here. We have erase, which will erase your colors from to the original color that you have, to the standard surface color. And we can set the blend mode in here. So that's base color. Okay, and then after you're done, don't forget to save textures, otherwise your texture won't be saved. So you need to hit save texture. Oh, one more thing I want to talk to you about is after you save your texture, what you can do is, let's say let's draw a little arrow in here. Let's maybe go to paint, set it to paint, and let's draw a little arrow pointing up, and then I can save my texture. And then let's press Q to go to selection mode, right click, and let's hit material attributes to go to my standard surface. And you'll see the color is being linked to a texture. So let's click here, and then you might get this window. Just right click in here, and let's click edit file to, and you will have this window. So it already created a JPEG texture for us. We can click this folder to see where it is. So it's in documents /Maya/project/default. We can click here 3 times to copy our path. And maybe we can go to File Explorer, and in here we can paste our path, and let's maybe delete this, and let's press enter, and it will lead us to our path. So documents, Maya, projects, default, and so on. So we can open it with Photoshop, with Paint, with any software you would like. I'm gonna open it with Paint because everyone has Paint. So this is our texture. As you can see, we have the arrow, the paintings we did. So what you can do here, you can also do your own colors in here. But also a fun thing you can do is, let's say you want to put a picture in your texture, you can maybe copy this image, go to paint, and now you can do Ctrl V and paste our image in here. And I can maybe put it here. And then let's go to File and Save. And let's go back to Maya. And it's not showing up here, we need to hit reload. And we will get our cat image in here. Very cool. And then I can even go back, go to texturing again, 3D paint tool, and I can draw on my cat. Okay, I just flooded my character to this color so we can see the brush easier. After you're done drawing, make sure to always save your texture. Okay, I'm gonna move on to the next attribute, which is the bump map. Let's assign the texture first. So for the bump map, you're only gonna need to use two colors, black and white. So if we set it to white, we can create this mountain shape on it. And if we set it to black, we can subtract. And then you can make the bumps smoother by going to the blur and just painting over them to create some nice details. You can lower the brush intensity and you can make some smooth bumps. You can even go to this folder right here. Let's maybe select this brush over here. Let's click open. So if you select one of the brushes in here, be careful, your Maya might crash. So it's a good idea to always save your Maya file. So let's draw my texture over here. And it didn't crash, so it replicated this texture onto my mesh, which can add a really nice detail to your character. And then to smooth it all out, of course, I can go to the blur and just blur everything down. Let's make our brush bigger. Now we have some really nice details. Let's save our texture. The next attribute I'm going to talk about is the specular color. So before you assign your texture, we need to go to the standard surface we created. So right click, material attributes, and make sure your weight is set to 1. And now we can assign texture, and once we assign it, you'll see the color is linked to our painting. So for the specular, you're also going to use between white and black, so make sure you change it back to paint. Sometimes I forget blur is on, so let's make our brush smaller. So white means shiny and black means matte. So let me enable the lighting. So right now these parts are shiny. I can make my brush smaller and make these parts matte, which is not shiny. So this is useful if you're highlighting something like the nose or highlighting the face. I'm gonna save my texture. Next, let's move on to opacity. Let's assign our texture. Okay, so opacity, we also have black and white. So if we make our brush bigger, so black will make the opacity 0, which will create a hole in your character. So I'm gonna paint in here too, and we can see the hole we created. And I'm using this brush. I can change it back to the original, and we can make our character invisible. You can see inside him. Sometimes if you're using the opacity, you'll get this weird bug. Alright, and we can go to the blur tool and blur out the edges to make a cool effect. So if you're experiencing this glitching issue, you can try to restart your Maya. If it keeps happening, you can just go right click, go to the material attribute and go to geometry, and then in the opacity you can right click and break the connection, which will remove the paint attribute that we painted. And now it's not opaque or transparent anymore. Alright, so the next thing I'm going to talk about is the emission color. So before we assign our texture, we need to right click, material attributes, go to emission and make sure our weight is set to 1. And then the color we can set it to black. Now we can assign our texture. And now if we try to paint, so I can select a color like yellow for example, and I can paint over it. So, and then we can go to the Arnold render to see how it looks like. Makes your color dependent without the light. So if I go to my sky dome and I make the intensity lower, we can see it's the only thing shining, glowing. And you can even add a nice effect by going to render settings, Arnold renderer, go down to images, add image, and you can select lens effects, and you can make it bloom. So you can add a nice glow to your emission. Alright, next I'm gonna talk about, let's make sure to save our texture, and that's pretty much it. So we talked about the base color, the bump map, the opacity, and the emission. So displacement, if you're you can only see the displacement in render view. The displacement is very sensitive and it can cause some crashes. So I wouldn't recommend messing with the displacement. And you can explore the other attributes on your own. Thank you all for watching. If you have any questions, please leave a comment down below. And I'll see you all next time. Bye.